Look at that face! I know a bunch of you are super excited now. It's time for some Brendan Fraser, everyone. He's been in the middle of a glorious comeback, so why not look back and appreciate one of his best movies that isn't The Mummy or George of the Jungle. This is 2000's Bedazzled. Spoiler alert, while I might be giving you my opinion on the film, that's no substitute for watching it for yourself. Links to the film are in the description. Immediately, you can tell that Elliot is a pushover, and he doesn't look like he'll be changing anytime soon. That might explain why he's so lonely. When he finally makes it up to his office, we listen in on a call with a customer, but he quickly turns to try and make friends in the office. It's very obvious that people are literally trying to avoid him as they blow off all of his advances for friendship. I can honestly say that I feel uncomfortable seeing Brendan as the homely geek that can't have friends. This is the same man that is the king of the jungle and slays mummies in his free time, but he can't get some loner co-workers to spend time with him. It hurts. That night, Elliot heads to the bar to try and catch his coworkers, and he sure does. Once he just decides to sit with them, he's immediately distracted when Allison makes her way into the bar. His coworkers are actually a little concerned by how much he actually knows about the woman that is way out of his league. He tries to play it off that they've been working in the same office for 4 years, but they know they haven't spent any time together.
You think I'm pathetic?
Don't touch me.
Go for it, Tiger.
This poor man. And he even goes over to talk to his crush because these people are making fun of him. This entire first 10 minutes just hurts. 2000s movies seem to go straight for the feels in the beginning so they could cut to the chase and entertain for the rest of the time. Sure enough, we meet the devil now. As Elliot goes to say hello, he manages to get just as many words out with her as he did with Allison. The devil talks to Elliot about how he said he'd give anything to get Allison, and she surprises him with all sorts of hot and heavy material. Suddenly, she hops straight into business as she tells him that she's the devil, and she will use her cataclysmic powers to grant him everything he's ever wanted. Elliot definitely doesn't believe her, but the devil isn't so easy to get rid of. Eventually, he decides to kind of buy into the devil idea, and she makes it known that she knows exactly how lonely he is every night. As a trial run, she gives him a free wish and they go to McDonald's. Definitely doesn't prove anything to him, but the worst part is he didn't even get fries. That's about the only good part of McDonald's. Afterwards, Devil takes Elliot to a banging club that she loves to go to, and she assures him that he has a bunch of fans waiting for him inside. Inside, the party is going strong, and the second Elliot steps inside, everyone gives him the warmest welcome he's ever gotten. As he continues through the club, it becomes clear that something is going on here that he can't quite explain, and he thinks that it might just be her. He still has his doubts though. For one thing, she doesn't look anything like he thought the devil would look like. Actually, I believe the other form more than this one. Thankfully, she changes back immediately. I like this form much more. Once they sit down, she hits him with the contract, and it's bigger than the Bible is. She gives him the cliff notes, and he finds out that she'll give him 7 wishes, but once all 7 are done, he owes her his soul. When he's asked what a soul is, he has no idea though, and that definitely makes it easier for her to sell him on this deal. To sell him even more, she shows him an image of Allison running to him on the beach. After seeing this, Elliot can't help but sign as he listens to Allison beg him to sign the contract. Just like that, Elliot's soul is on the line as he signs for 7 wishes. The devil gives Elliot a pager that he is to use if his wishes don't go as he plans. His first wish is to marry Allison and be very rich and powerful. Sure enough, he wakes up as a Hispanic boss with Allison sleeping in bed next to him. The mustache would have been enough to sell me on this wish though. Look at it, perfectly trimmed. As Elliot makes his way through his estate, he finds out that he can even speak Spanish fluently now. He finds out that he has business at his stables, and the weight of his wish to be rich and powerful finally sinks in. What doesn't sink in is the reality of how he became so rich and powerful. That comes shortly after seeing Allison flirt with her English teacher. He even pulls off half of his glorious mustache. Elliot decides to check on Allison and her English teacher, and he soon finds out that she's been messing with him for the entire time that she's been having lessons. When he goes to confront Allison, she tells him about how she despises him, and he's quickly called away for trouble going on outside. Now he sees a whole new side of his wish as he is whisked away by a mini army to his warehouse to deal with an employee that has been stealing his product. What's his product? Cocaine. Go figure. Now that he realizes that he is a powerful drug lord and his dream wife hates him, he tries to put that all aside to deal with business. This literally plays out like a bad Spanish soap opera. Suddenly, the English teacher pops up and starts shooting up the drug warehouse, and Elliot shoots bags of cocaine out of the sky. It's just a big bad soap opera. Elliot grabs onto the feet of the helicopter as it takes off, and he goes to use the pager the devil gave him. He drops it, but he falls after it just as he almost hits the ground. Now that he's back, he asks her what was up with the wish he got. She explains that he got exactly what he wished for, but he didn't specify anything else. She ends up taking him to the key place to find out what Allison really likes. She takes him to her bedroom, but Allison can't see them. Now that the rules have been established, the devil goes through Allison's journal to find out that she wants a sensitive man. As Elliot listens to this, he acts as though he's the perfect man for her. Now that he's heard this information, he wishes to be the most emotionally sensitive man in the world.
I went to make a garland of beach plums to place atop your glorious head like a crown.
It's time to be honest with yourself. How many of you want someone like this in your life? How many of you can truly say you want the super sensitive person to complete you? As Elliot continues explaining what he was doing, he is caught up in the sunset and he starts to cry. Suddenly, Allison decides that this is a good time to have a serious conversation, and she starts off by admitting that she's never met a man more in touch with his feelings than him. She's soon interrupted by even more of Elliot's emotions, but eventually she just realizes that she has to come out and tell him exactly what she's thinking when some of the local men show up. It turns out that being the sensitive man he thought she wanted isn't what she really wanted. She admits to him that she kind of has no idea what she really wants, and she decides to go with a destructive choice instead. As Elliot is left to cry on the beach, he uses the pager again, but not before taking one last look at the sunset. Poor thing. Well, at least he gets another redo. He's only 2 wishes into his 7-wish soul deal. After getting played by the devil, he gets a boost of self-confidence that keeps him looking forward to the next wishes. As they discuss his next wish, Elliot makes the realization that women sometimes just don't know what they want, and he decides to go with big, strong, rich, athletic, and famous. This can only go right. Just like that, Elliot is the next great NBA All-Star.
From the get-go, the fans took a look at Elliot Richards, and a couple women faded.
Oh my god, how did they even accomplish that? Stilts, pumps, platforms? All I see is some South Park surgery going on here. It becomes clear that Elliot is the best thing to happen to the sport of basketball since Michael Jordan, and it soon becomes clear of what he forgot to wish for when it comes time for his post-game interview. He forgot all of the brains. Any brains, actually. When he gets back to the locker room, he ends up having to do an interview with Allison while he stands there in his towel. She tries to make a move on him, but he's just too slow to pick up on her very obvious advances. Oh, I forgot to mention the other thing he forgot to wish for.
Oh my god.
Oh! Oh, damn the devil!
That should be on his wish list every time after this one for sure, without exception. This time when he goes to use his beeper, he's just not bright enough to get it right for a minute, but he eventually gets the right numbers. When he comes back to the real world, he finds the devil giving hospital patients placebo medicine, aka candy. Well, according to her, it works just as well as the real thing. So Elliot blows this off and gets back to fine-tuning his next wish. He actually forgets about his little member for a second, and the devil is the one to remind him about it. That's very thoughtful of her. She could have gotten an easy wish out of him there. This time, he's a best-selling author that shows up to his own celebratory party where he's surrounded by his amazingly successful friends and fans. After mingling with everyone, Allison takes notice of Elliot, and she asks to find out more about him. When she makes her way over to the circle that Elliot is explaining something from his book, she begins to realize that Elliot loves to hear himself talk. After being swept off her feet to his room, they are in for a surprise when they get to his room. Elliot's boyfriend makes himself known as they walk in, and it becomes clear that Elliot probably should have specified his sexual preference apparently. The devil is a crafty one. He even tries a test kiss, and it's clear that the devil definitely made sure to cover all of her bases. This time, Elliot comes back to the real world to find the devil is teaching an all-boys high school class, and this couldn't be more of a recipe for disaster. She heads over to Elliot and she checks on how his wish went. He tries to give her a lesson in being a good person, but he should really take a second glance at who he's trying to preach to right now. He'd have better luck preaching to the deaf, so he decides to wish for something a little less selfish. Elliot is now the President of the United States, and he meets Allison immediately at the theater. When he looks in the mirror, he notices that he is Abraham Lincoln, and he is at the play that Abe was assassinated in. Every little sound makes Elliot feel on edge, and he can't help but feel like he's about to get shot at any second. He searches all over his person to find the pager, and he just happens to find it in the nick of time. After an awkward altercation with the devil about how many wishes he has left, Elliot realizes that he only has one wish left. This is where you call it a loss and leave the last wish for all eternity. She can't claim your soul if you don't get all 7 wishes. Then again, who knows what was in that Bible of terms and conditions? It's like reading through Apple's terms. Elliot decides to go to the local church for advice, and he tries to request a one-on-one session with God himself. The priest keeps trying to convince Elliot that he can talk to him instead, but after he tells him his problem, he calls the police to escort Elliot out. When he gets brought into the station, they question him even more about his deal with the devil, and they lock him up for the night. He tries to resist, but the devil shows up to lock him up. She tries to explain that avoiding the deal is useless, and he should just use the last wish and get it over with. After she locks him up, Elliot realizes that he's locked up with another guy who calls her the devil too. After a nice, friendly conversation, the man makes sure Elliot realizes that his soul isn't really his to sell. This movie got really deep really quickly, out of nowhere. I felt like we were just gonna wrap things up with a quick wish done right, but we got a whole sermon in 5 minutes here. Definitely wasn't expecting that. The next day, Elliot heads to the Devil's Club and he finds that it isn't the hopping place he remembers going to the first night. No one seems to realize exactly who they are or how they feel.
Everybody wants to go to the party, but nobody wants to pay the piper.
Don't get your hopes up, it's just a costume. She's still the devil, but she's not wrong there either. Just when Elliot tries to tell her that he's not gonna wish for anything else, she makes sure he realizes that all of this is covered in his contract. He still sticks to the idea that all the things he wants are things that she can't really give him. Even after she gets a little more aggressive with him, Elliot sticks to his guns and tells her that he isn't gonna ask for that last wish. Sure enough, she sends him to hell and transforms into her huge devil form. Elliot realizes that he has no choice but to make a wish, so he decides to make it a good one by wishing for Allison to have a happy life. As he tumbles down, he ends up finding himself lying on the steps of the courthouse. The devil shows up and explains everything like they're best friends in the world. She explains that him wishing for a purely benevolent wish makes the contract null and void.
Yes! Oh, yeah! Yes!
We'd all be doing the same thing right here. You can't even act like you'd be all cool, calm, and collected. The devil tells him that he's the first person in 6,000 years to break a contract, but she explains that it always comes down to the person instead of the heaven and hell aspect. After a gushy little goodbye, Elliot runs for the office where he finally finds the courage to just talk to Allison on the way up to the office floor. It turns out that all he needed this entire time was the confidence to take that leap. It turns out that she's currently seeing someone, but Elliot makes sure she knows that he's still there if things don't work out. Elliot even pulls the courage to confront the co-workers that can't stop making fun of him. All in all, everything seems to be looking up for Elliot. When he gets home, he ends up meeting the new neighbor, and he can't help but see a resemblance to Allison. It's funny how things work out, isn't it? Elliot ends up being ridiculously happy with Nicole, and it ends up making everything worth it in the end. This is one of those feel-good lesson-learning movies that seem to fly right by quite a few people. If you haven't experienced this movie, I highly recommend it. If you want to try out some other feel-good movies, here's some more recap videos to try next. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more like this one. Comment what you think I should watch next, and I'll see you in the next video.